In 1944, a man was strangled to death by a machine he built with his own hands. It was the last thing he ever invented, and, fittingly, it was the only one of his inventions that killed just one person. Because the other two poisoned the entire planet. One stole nearly 1 billion points of human intelligence. The other tore a hole in the sky itself. This is the story of the most dangerous good intention in history. This is Thomas Midgley. To understand how one man poisoned the world, you have to understand a sound, a knock. In the early days of the automobile, engines had a flaw. Push them too hard, and they would rattle, a violent, self-destructive banging deep inside the cylinder. Engineers called it knock. It wasted power, it cracked engines apart, and nobody knew how to stop it. The job of killing the knock fell to a laboratory in Dayton, Ohio, run by a legendary inventor named Charles Kettering. And Kettering had a golden boy, a charming, relentless chemist named Thomas Midgley. For 6 years, Midgley searched. He tested compound after compound, iodine, aniline, tellurium, 100 dead ends. Some worked, but stank of garlic for days. He was looking for one magic ingredient, something you could pour into gasoline that would silence the knock forever. On December 9, 1921, he found it. A single, oily compound, a few grams in a gallon of fuel, and the knock simply vanished. It was a miracle. Smoother engines, more power, a fortune waiting to be made. There was just one problem with Midgley's miracle molecule. It was made of lead. Now, here is the part the story turns on. Humanity had known lead was a poison for over 2,000 years. The Romans wrote about it. It attacks the brain, the blood, the nerves. Midgley knew it, Kettering knew it, and they also knew there was a safer answer. Ethanol, plain grain alcohol, could quiet the knock too. But ethanol had a fatal flaw for a corporation. Anyone could make it, and no one could own it. You cannot patent a molecule that grows in a cornfield. Leaded gasoline, on the other hand, could be patented, controlled, sold for a penny a gallon in profit, at the scale of every car on Earth. So they made a choice. They named their product ethyl. They scrubbed the word lead from every label, every ad, every barrel. The public would never hear the word poison. They would just breathe it. To make his miracle, they built factories. And inside those factories, the truth about leaded gasoline could not be hidden. Because the men who made it began to lose their minds. At the Standard Oil plant in Bayway, New Jersey, and at DuPont's works, workers handling the raw tetraethyl lead started to hallucinate. They saw insects crawling over their skin, insects that weren't there. They named the place themselves. They called it the House of Butterflies. The symptoms followed a terrible pattern. First, confusion. Then violent, screaming fury. Then a wild, hysterical laughter, before the body simply gave out. One worker, shrieking that phantom figures were coming for him, became the first of 5 men to die. Another hurled himself from a second-floor window. Dozens more were dragged away in straight. The story was exploding across the newspapers. Loony gas, they called it. The public was afraid, so Thomas Midgley called a press conference. On October 30th, 1924, in front of reporters, he poured liquid tetraethyl lead over his bare hands. He held an open bottle of it under his nose, and he breathed it in, deeply for a full 60 seconds. "I'm taking no chances whatever," he said. It was a lie. And he knew it was a lie, because Midgley himself had already been poisoned by his own invention. Just months later, he quietly slipped away to Europe to be treated for lead poisoning. But the show worked. Leaded gasoline was declared safe, and for the next 50 years it poured out of every tailpipe on Earth, into the air of every city, every street, every playground. It settled into the lungs of children. Decades later, scientists would run the numbers. In the United States alone, leaded gasoline is estimated to have stripped away 824 million points of human intelligence from more than 170 million people. The children of the 1960s and 70s, breathing the most, lost the most. An entire generation, quietly robbed of as much as 7 IQ points each. It became one of the largest mass poisonings in human history. And Thomas Midgley wasn't even finished. In the 1920s, refrigerators were killing people too. They ran on toxic, flammable gases, ammonia, sulfur dioxide, that leaked in the night and poisoned families in their sleep. The industry needed a hero. Kettering turned, once again, to Thomas Midgley. And once again Midgley delivered a miracle. In 1928, he engineered a gas that was stable, non-flammable, and, as far as anyone could tell, completely non-toxic. He called it Freon. To prove how safe it was, Midgley performed for the American Chemical Society. He inhaled a lungful of Freon and used it to gently blow out a candle. No fire, no poison. The audience was stunned. Freon was a triumph. It cooled homes, preserved food, saved lives. It went into hundreds of millions of refrigerators and air conditioners across the entire planet. Midgley had done it again. He was celebrated as one of the great chemists of his age, but every molecule of Freon he ever made shared a hidden property. It was so stable that nothing on the ground could destroy it. So, slowly, invisibly, it floated upward, for years, until it reached the top of the sky. There, in the stratosphere, ultraviolet light tore it apart, and released its chlorine. And that chlorine began to devour the ozone layer, the thin, invisible shield that stops the sun's radiation from cooking life on Earth. In 1974, two scientists, Mario Molina and Sherwood Rowland, finally understood what was happening. By the 1980s, the world could see it. A growing hole in the sky, over Antarctica. Midgley had been dead for 30 years. But his invention was still up there, still tearing. One historian would later write that Thomas Midgley had more impact on the atmosphere than any other single organism in Earth's history. Thomas Midgley never knew what his inventions would do. He died believing he was a benefactor of mankind, but fate had one last, cruel piece of engineering left for him. In 1940, he was struck down by polio. The brilliant inventor was left paralyzed, unable to lift himself from his own bed. And so, he did the only thing he knew how to do. He invented a solution. A system of ropes and pulleys, rigged above his bed, to hoist his body upright each morning. On November 2, 1944, that machine did what machines sometimes do. The ropes tangled, and the man who had poisoned a generation and torn a hole in the sky was found strangled to death by his own final invention. Of everything Thomas Midgley ever built, it was the only one that harmed just a single person. Thomas Midgley was not a villain. He was something more unsettling. A good man. A brilliant man. Who wanted to solve problems and who, twice, was handed the tools to reshape the world. Twice he succeeded. And twice the world paid for it, long after he was gone. He is the perfect warning for our own age, that the most dangerous thing in history is not evil. It is a good intention, scaled up beyond anyone's ability to see the consequences.